Christine did me a favor by being brave enough to leave.
Christine didn't even flinch. She sat there on Instagram Live, casual as can be, flipping through the pages of her upcoming book like she was reading bedtime stories. But what came out of her mouth? It was anything but peaceful. Somewhere between a joke about Kody's ego and a cryptic remark about speaking off the cuff, she dropped a line that made thousands of jaws hit the floor. "We never got paid directly. TLC sent it all to Kody. No warning, no disclaimer." Just out in the open like it was common knowledge, and maybe to her after all this time, it was. But for longtime fans, it felt like the floor just gave out. Because this wasn't just some vague complaint. This was Christine, sweet, composed Christine, allegedly confirming what Reddit sleuths and frustrated followers have speculated for years. And that's when she reached for her phone again and said something that lit the whole fandom on fire. "I saved some of the receipts." Literally. Now, this wasn't your average influencer stunt. There was no flashy announcement or camera-ready setup. Just Christine, live from her living room, sharing pieces of her truth one sentence at a time.
Speaking off the cuff is not honesty. You think about the truth, you figure out the truth, you don't spit it out.
It started innocent enough. She was asking viewers to pick page numbers for a quick teaser read from her memoir. But then she flipped to a passage about money, something about TLC contracts, verbal promises, and Kody being the one who handled all the paperwork. And just like that, it slipped out. None of it went to me directly. It all went to him. Every single check. She didn't look embarrassed. She looked free. And almost immediately, the comments section started spiraling. "Are you saying he took it all?" One viewer typed. "How is that legal?" asked another. Christine didn't confirm any exact numbers, but her tone said enough. She gave a knowing smile and said, "It was all in his name. I never saw the deposits." Then, almost like she remembered she was on camera, she added quickly, "But we were told it was for the family. We trusted it would be split." Past tense. That one word hit harder than anything else. What made the moment even more unshakable was what she did after the live ended. Less than 20 minutes later, a screenshot started circulating on Facebook groups and Instagram fan pages. A grainy photo, allegedly from Christine's own camera roll, showed a partial bank statement with a red circle around a deposit labeled TLC Discovery Payment. The account name? Kody W. Brown. Not the family LLC. Not a shared trust. Just Kody. Now let's be clear. There's been no official confirmation that this screenshot came directly from Christine, but fans were quick to point out the background of the photo looked suspiciously like the furniture in Christine's Utah home. A candle holder, a side table, the edge of a pillow, all matching previous social posts.
Worried about too many relationships. Do the wives like me? Do they like Kody? Do they like him too much? Does he like me?
And even though Christine hasn't reposted the image herself, she hasn't denied it either, which in this case might be louder than words. But the real storm is still brewing, because after that 8-minute live, Christine left with a promise. "Next time, I'll show you the contract copy I kept. Just wait." And that one sentence, it's all anyone can talk about. If she really has the original contract, or even part of it, it could be the biggest bombshell this franchise has ever seen. Not just messy, legal, because if Kody pocketed all the money under the guise of family distribution while the wives were left in the dark, that's not just unethical. Depending on how the contracts were written, it might be criminal. And that's when it got even messier. It all starts to make a twisted kind of sense when you rewind the tape back to the early seasons. When Sister Wives first hit TLC, everything was painted in soft sepia tones: family unity, shared sacrifice, spiritual calling. But behind the scenes, according to multiple insiders and now strongly hinted at in Christine's memoir, the financial setup was anything but equal. Sources allege that when the family first sat down to hash out the TLC contracts, Kody was adamant that all the payments go through a central business entity, one controlled by him. No room for negotiation, no talk of separate checks. "It's easier for taxes," he reportedly said. And the wives, many of whom had never seen a legal contract before that moment, allegedly nodded along. They were building a life, a legacy, a television brand. They trusted him. But what Christine is now claiming, boldly, and with more than a little edge, is that Kody's central account turned out to be his personal account. Not a shared LLC, not a family trust, just one man's name on the routing slip. And she wasn't guessing. She had allegedly seen the deposits herself, or rather, the lack of deposits in her own accounts, for years. "We asked for breakdowns," Christine writes in one chapter, "but we were always told it was too complicated, or we'd get it later. Later never came." And here's where it spirals into something even darker. Because Christine isn't just suggesting Kody mishandled some family money, she's hinting that the wives were kept deliberately in the dark for over a decade, financially, legally, and emotionally. Allegedly, every time one of them questioned where the money was going, Kody would give the same answer: "It's all accounted for. You don't need to worry." And for a while, maybe they believed him. Or maybe they just didn't know what questions to ask. But Christine did something the others didn't. According to her live, and this part had fans' ears burning, she started making copies. Quietly, methodically, and long before she ever packed her bags and left Flagstaff. She allegedly photocopied agreements. She screen captured bank statements. She wrote down dates, times, and dollar amounts. "I just wanted to be ready," she said, not quite smiling, in case the truth needed to come out.
And I have decided to leave.
And now here it is, slowly but very publicly, starting to come out. And fans are treating each drip like holy water. Forums are ablaze with speculation. Could Christine really have proof that Cody hoarded the entire TLC income for himself? And if she does, what does that mean for Robin, who, let's not forget, has never worked outside the home since marrying Cody and allegedly benefited from his spending? Because if Christine's documents show that Robin lived lavishly while the other wives scrimped and saved, the backlash won't stop at Cody. Already, Janelle's name is floating around again, whispers that she too suspected financial foul play, especially toward the end. Rumor has it she once asked Cody for itemized records and was brushed off so aggressively that she dropped the topic entirely. But Christine didn't. Christine allegedly kept digging, and now she might be the only one who has the receipts to finally prove what fans have long feared, that this wasn't just a dysfunctional relationship, it was a financial con. And just when you think that's the worst of it, Christine drops another breadcrumb that leaves Jaws on the floor. "I didn't sign away my silence," she says, not in the way he thinks. The fallout was instant and messy, because within 24 hours of Christine's Instagram Live, something peculiar started happening across social media. Multiple fan pages noticed that certain comments were quietly disappearing, especially ones asking where the money went, or whether Robin ever had access to the account too. On one Facebook thread, a user claimed her comment was deleted after she asked whether Robin received separate deposits. Another said she'd been blocked entirely after reposting the alleged screenshot of Cody's account. Now, there's no official proof that Cody or TLC was behind the cleanup, but the pattern raised eyebrows, and it only fueled the speculation that there was more to the story. Much more. Insiders now claim that right before Christine went live, there was a tense exchange in the Brown family's private group chat, if it can even be called family anymore. According to someone close to production, Janelle reportedly confronted Cody with a simple but biting question. "Where's the paper trail? Not did you take the money, but where is the documentation?" A fan on Reddit claiming to be connected to the show's crew said the message was left unread. No reply, no denial, just radio silence. Allegedly, Mary left the chat altogether not long after, and Robin sent a single heart emoji. That was it. No answers, no apologies, and certainly no spreadsheets. Christine, meanwhile, stayed quiet, publicly, but her actions spoke volumes. She reposted a clip from a TLC episode where Cody says, "I don't answer to my wives about money," and added a single word caption, "Right." She didn't need to say anything else. Her point was clear. The man who had built his persona on honesty and family leadership allegedly ran the show like a one-man bank, and now the wives were being expected to keep quiet again. But the real legal twist came when someone leaked a line from the original TLC contract, or so they claim. It's unverified, but it's spreading fast. The line allegedly states, "All compensation to be issued to the designated head of household for distribution at his discretion." If true, this clause would mean the network legally backed Cody's control, and any claims of financial abuse could get murky. But here's the thing, head of household isn't a title in a plural marriage. It's a relic from a patriarchal system, and Christine is finally calling it out for what it was. Control disguised as order, obedience masquerading as faith. And here's where it all twists even tighter, because multiple viewers have started connecting the dots around Robin's spending, especially during the seasons, when the family claimed they were broke. Fans dug up clips of her online shopping binges, her brand new SUV, her extensive home decor haul that allegedly ran close to $140,000, all of it paid for, according to past interviews from the family account. And if Christine's receipts are accurate, that family account was Cody's personal checking account, which makes the optics devastating. So far, no public statement from Robin, not a peep. But the silence is deafening, and fans are starting to wonder whether lawyers are involved behind the scenes. Because Christine has made it crystal clear she's just getting started. Her book is already climbing the pre-sale charts, and according to those who caught the last moments of her live, she teased a possible bonus chapter for the paperback edition, one that will include the full story about where the TLC money went. And if she publishes the entire financial timeline, complete with dates and deposit records, this won't just be a scandal, it'll be a reckoning.
Everything hurt. But we had children together, and Wyoming had been so beautiful. And my grandpa had joined us for all eternity in our wedding ceremony. Oh!
And if Kody thought this was as far as she'd go, he clearly underestimated her. Because Christine doesn't look scared, she looks free, and that's when it got even messier. For longtime fans of the show, Christine's quiet rebellion isn't just personal, it's symbolic. The woman who once looked straight into the camera and said, "I just want to be happy," is now flipping that happiness into hard truth. And one of the most explosive truths she's teased so far, a clause in the contract that allegedly fined any wife who spoke publicly about the money. Yes, fined. According to Christine's book, there was language baked into their early agreement with TLC that essentially muzzled the wives when it came to finances. If we broke confidentiality, we'd be penalized, she writes. It was written in. The penalty. Christine doesn't name an exact figure, but insiders allege it was several $1,000s per violation. That single clause changes the game, because it paints a picture of women contractually silenced, while one man, the so-called head of household, controlled the purse strings, the camera angles, and the narrative. And it begs the question, was TLC complicit in this? Did they knowingly allow Kody to funnel the show's income into his personal accounts while threatening the wives into silence? There's no official response from the network yet, but the whispers are growing louder, and some fans have pointed out that Christine's sudden openness might be strategically timed. After all, once a certain number of seasons have aired, non-disclosure clauses tied to past episodes may start to expire. But Christine isn't just hinting at financial abuse. She's exposing a full-blown pattern of gaslighting, double standards, and spiritual manipulation. In one particularly raw moment from her reading, she recalls how Kody would dodge financial questions by hiding behind religion. "We're building a kingdom," he used to say. "We all contribute." But the kingdom, it seems, had only one throne, and Christine's now pointing to that throne and the man sitting on it with receipts in hand. And then there's Robin, sweet, tearful, wide-eyed Robin, who spent years on the show claiming to be deeply devout, family-oriented, and committed to the values of plural marriage. Yet Christine's revelations paint a very different picture behind the scenes. One that includes whispered requests from Robin to abandon religious garments, frequent luxury purchases, and a lifestyle that allegedly ballooned in comfort right after Christine and Janelle began asking too many questions. Christine hasn't outright accused Robin of complicity, but she doesn't have to. The implications are layered in every sentence. "It's hard to watch someone spend freely when you're counting quarters for groceries," she writes. And perhaps the most devastating twist? Christine claims she once tried to bring up the money issue in therapy sessions the show filmed, but those scenes were either cut or edited beyond recognition. "We filmed it," she says, "but you never saw it," which leads to yet another theory floating around. How much did production know? And how much did they intentionally leave out? Was it all part of preserving the family-friendly image of polygamy on primetime? Or was it simply good TV to keep Christine struggling while Robin redecorated? Whatever the reason, Christine's done waiting, and she's done pretending. Her voice is steady now, her smile edged with something stronger than revenge justice. She says she's not looking to sue, at least not yet. But if Kody tries to retaliate or challenge her version of events publicly, Christine's made it crystal clear. "I have every document I need." And that's when it got even messier. Looking back, it's almost chilling how normal Christine tried to make it all seem during those early seasons. The quiet budgeting, the coupons, the humble meals, while Kody and Robin picked out expensive furniture and shopped for custom pieces. At the time, it was passed off as just tight finances or splitting between multiple households. But now, in the context of these contract revelations, fans are putting the puzzle together. And it's not a pretty picture.
Well, don't blame me for not loving you. I was doing my duty. Blame yourself if I don't love you, okay? I wish I wouldn't have ever married her.
Christine alleges in her memoir that while she was struggling to make ends meet and Janelle was living in an RV, Kody was off booking resort-style vacations for private time with Robin. And the kicker? It was all allegedly paid from the same account, the account where TLC deposited every dime. She talks about sleepless nights, crunching numbers, trying to figure out how they'd afford new shoes for the kids or fix a broken washing machine. "We were living paycheck to paycheck," she writes, but only some of us knew it. That sentence alone has echoed across social media like a siren, because it paints a devastating portrait, not just of inequality, but of deliberate exclusion. If Kody was fully in control of the money and didn't communicate the budget with his wives, how could they have planned, saved, grown? In Christine's words, "We weren't wives, we were dependents, and not even valued ones." She shares one story in particular that floored longtime viewers. At one point during filming, Christine allegedly asked Kody if she could use some of the TLC money to start a small business. Something modest, a catering venture, or maybe even a food truck. She says he brushed it off immediately. "We can't spare the funds," he told her. Meanwhile, just a few weeks later, Robin's online jewelry boutique suddenly launched with Kody helping her set it up. And that, Christine says, was the turning point. I stopped asking after that, I just started documenting. And document she did. The book doesn't drop hard numbers, but Christine strongly implies she kept track of every time Robin splurged. Furniture deliveries, tutoring programs for her kids, fancy clothing hauls, designer bags, all allegedly paid from the same source. Every expense told a story, she writes, and most of them weren't mine. Fans online have already dubbed this part of her memoir the polygamist ledger, and the irony isn't lost. While Cody preached unity and spiritual leadership on camera, Christine was allegedly left scribbling down receipts in a notebook just to survive. But it's not just the spending that stings, it's the gaslighting that came with it. Christine says anytime she brought up money, she was made to feel selfish, unfaithful, like questioning him meant I didn't trust God. That's how deep the manipulation ran, she says. Not just marital imbalance, but theological guilt. Cody allegedly framed his control as divine, and that's where Janelle enters the picture again, with her now famous line, "Polygamy is why you're strong." Christine finally admits in her book that line made her feel weak, not empowered, not inspired, just tired. It made me think maybe I was the problem for not handling it better. And that's when the realization set in. Maybe polygamy wasn't the challenge that made her strong, but the excuse that kept her small. And once she saw the pattern, she couldn't unsee it. Especially not with all the receipts piling up in her drawer.
It's like, shame on you. You're the reason why they didn't work.
So when Christine finally stood up, looked that camera straight on, and said she kept everything, every request denied, every purchase approved, every silent swipe of the card, what she was really saying was, you don't get to rewrite the story this time. For years, she was expected to smile through the imbalance, to pray through the pressure, and to keep sweet no matter how much it hurt. But now, she's holding the pen, and what she's writing isn't just a memoir, it's a warning shot. Of all the contradictions swirling through the sister wives saga, few are more jarring than the chasm between the family's televised spiritual devotion and what Christine is now revealing about the financial realities behind closed doors. The very garments they wore, literal symbols of their faith, are suddenly back in the spotlight, thanks to a shocking revelation. Christine slipped into her book. According to her account, it wasn't Cody or the family's religious leaders who brought up ditching the sacred underwear. It was Robin. Christine recalls a car ride home from a group trip when Robin allegedly turned and said, almost casually, I want to talk about garments. Now, for viewers who don't come from that world, that might not sound like a bombshell. But for anyone familiar with the fundamentalist Mormon tradition, it's seismic. These aren't just clothes. Temple garments are considered holy. Removing them or even questioning their use is considered by many in the faith to be a sign of spiritual rebellion or moral weakness. And Robin was supposed to be the devout one, the one who never wavered, the one who wept through every religious confession and claimed to be closest to God's path. But Christine's version of events suggests something else entirely, that Robin was the one nudging the family away from their spiritual roots behind the scenes, all while clinging to that devout image in front of the cameras. Christine doesn't call Robin a hypocrite outright, but the insinuation is heavy. She writes that the shift in religious standards seemed to benefit Robin most. Looser dress expectations, less scrutiny, fewer spiritual obligations, and somehow those shifts always lined up with her preferences. Meanwhile, Christine and the other wives were left to reconcile their guilt with their silence. It wasn't just about the garments, Christine notes. It was about control disguised as liberation, convenience dressed up as revelation. That line alone has fans rewatching entire episodes in a new light.
I'm glad he thinks so. I feel like that's giving me all the honor and credit that that I deserve for leaving. It was hard.
It also casts a fresh shadow on the family's finances, because if Robin was allegedly the one pushing for modern comfort spiritually, is it really a stretch to believe she was also benefiting materially? Especially now that Christine's receipts seem to point toward one household being treated very differently from the others. Viewers have already documented the contrast. While Christine and Janelle juggled housing instability and worn-out appliances, Robin had a nanny, a dedicated tutor, and a 5-bedroom home reportedly bought with pooled family money. And now, if that money came from TLC checks funneled directly into Cody's name, the dots practically connect themselves. Christine even admits she initially saw Robin's influence as a positive. She was charming, she listened, she made things seem easier. But over time, those so-called improvements came with trade-offs, namely the erosion of shared decision-making and a new unspoken rule. If Cody and Robin agreed, everyone else was expected to fall in line. Christine doesn't say Robin orchestrated it all, but she does pose a haunting question. What happens when one wife becomes the exception to every rule? Because once spiritual standards start shifting and financial transparency disappears, what's left of a family built on shared values? That question still lingers in the air, sharp, unanswered, and impossible to ignore. Christine's voice trembles just slightly when she starts talking about the kids, not because she's unsure, but because it's the one subject that still cuts the deepest. In her latest reading, she opens up about the unspoken price of putting their children on television. They didn't ask for this, she says, and they weren't ready. At first, she admits, it felt fun. Cameras, attention, compliments from strangers at the grocery store. The novelty of fame was almost intoxicating, but it didn't last. As the seasons rolled on, Christine claims it became clearer and clearer just how much pressure was quietly crushing the youngest Browns. Some teachers were inappropriate, she writes, without giving names. People thought they knew our kids, and they didn't. What's most painful isn't just what Christine hints at, it's what she doesn't say directly. She dances around certain experiences, dropping breadcrumbs without diving fully in. But the implication is chilling. The kids weren't just filmed, they were exposed. We went from private church schools to national TV in what felt like a blink, she says. And the cameras didn't just follow us, they followed them. As parents today wrestle with the ethics of child influencers and family vlogs, Christine's quiet confession lands like a gut punch, because she's not some outsider criticizing reality TV, she lived it. And now, in retrospect, she seems to be asking herself the very questions fans have asked for years. Did we protect them enough? Did we choose attention over safety? One moment in particular stands out. Christine shares that one of her daughters began to recoil when strangers approached her in public, not because they were mean, but because they acted like they knew her. She started asking to stay home from errands, Christine says. It was too much. And when fans point out that Truly still appears occasionally on camera, Christine acknowledges the contradiction. We try to keep it minimal, she says, but if I'm honest, we didn't know then what we know now. That line, we didn't know then, feels like the closest thing to an apology Christine has offered, and it's powerful in its simplicity. But the emotional toll wasn't the only consequence. Christine now claims that financial expectations tied to the kids' appearances were never truly honored. According to her, Cody promised that money from the show would be set aside for college funds, but when the time came, it was nowhere to be found. She doesn't spell it out. There's no accusation of theft, but the disappointment is unmistakable. We were told the family account would cover it, she writes, but by then we knew better than to ask twice. This is where the cracks in the family story become impossible to smooth over.
They're all gonna come over and sit down outside, because we can only sit outside 6 feet apart, and I'm gonna tell them I'm leaving.
Because if the children, who never signed contracts, never gave consent, were used to prop up a show that funneled money into one man's account, the ethical stakes get even murkier. And Christine's not backing away from that complexity. She's walking straight into it. Some fans believe she's quietly preparing a trust fund now, hoping to right the wrongs retroactively. Others think she's laying the groundwork for a larger reckoning, one that might still involve lawyers down the line. Either way, one thing is clear, Christine's done pretending the kids came out unscathed, and if speaking her truth means cracking open the polished surface of Sister Wives fame, so be it. Because protecting them now means finally telling the truth about then. If there's one thing Cody Brown has never lacked, it's confidence. For years, he's strutted through episodes of Sister Wives with that smug grin, proudly declaring himself the glue that holds everything together. I'm the leader, he's said more than once. This is my family. But Christine's recent comments are peeling back the layers of that ego, and what's underneath is starting to look less like leadership and more like dictatorship. In her memoir, she reveals what many fans have long suspected. Cody didn't just act like the star of the show. He truly believed it was his show. All of it. The contracts, the footage, the narrative, the paychecks. He told me once, it's called Sister Wives, but let's be honest, it's really about me, she writes. And at the time, I laughed. But now, it's not funny anymore. This wasn't just a man claiming center stage. It was a man allegedly using that stage to tighten his grip. Christine describes how, from the very beginning, Cody positioned himself as the sole negotiator with TLC. He'd talk to producers alone, set filming schedules without discussion, and control what scenes were prioritized. We didn't have final say, she says. Not about what aired, not about what we were paid. Cody did. And the more she describes it, the more it sounds less like a family partnership and more like a top-down production with one executive producer pulling every string. But the financial imbalance is just the tip of the iceberg. Christine now claims that when she and the other wives pushed for transparency, or even just creative input, Cody would accuse them of being ungrateful. He said we were lucky to be on TV at all, she writes, that we wouldn't have this opportunity without him. That kind of language might sound like typical reality TV bravado, but in the context of a religiously rooted plural marriage where women were already expected to be submissive, it hits differently. It's not just arrogance, it's power play. And the network? According to Christine, they didn't intervene. Not once. He was their access point, she says, so they let him run it however he wanted. That unchecked authority allowed Kody to allegedly funnel every aspect of the show, emotional, spiritual, and financial, through his own lens, and in doing so, he effectively silenced any wife who questioned the setup. Christine describes moments where her input was ignored, her concerns dismissed, and her presence on camera treated as optional, unless of course she was crying. Tears made good TV, she says. So when I cried, they kept the cameras rolling. It's a harrowing contrast to the early messaging of the show, which preached family unity, equality among wives, and a shared spiritual purpose.
I think polygamy can cause a person to be too in her head.
Now, Christine says that was never truly the case. He was always the star. We were the supporting cast. And perhaps the most ironic part, Kody used religion to frame it all as destiny. God chose me. He allegedly told Christine once to lead this family and guide it into the spotlight. But now that spotlight is turning. It's no longer illuminating Kody's narrative, it's exposing it. And Christine? She's standing at the edge of the stage, holding the receipts and finally rewriting the script. Christine may have quietly endured the imbalance for years, but what finally broke her wasn't just the money, it was the humiliation, the emotional wear and tear, the slow erosion of dignity, the moments of quiet defeat that viewers sensed but couldn't quite name until now. In one of the most vulnerable sections of her memoir, Christine circles back to an infamous scene that fans have never quite forgotten, the nachos moment. What seemed like a passing, awkward joke on the show now reads like a gut punch, with a long history behind it. He told me he wasn't attracted to me, she writes, and then used a plate of nachos as the metaphor. Just typing that feels cruel, but hearing it from Christine's point of view, it's devastating. She doesn't mince words. He said I was chubby, she reveals, and he said it while I was eating. Not behind closed doors, not in a private, tearful confession, but in a moment so casual it felt rehearsed. She paints the scene in painful detail, how she was excited to share a meal, how she thought it would be a moment of connection, only to realize he had weaponized her joy and turned it into disgust. It was like he needed me to feel small, she writes, and that's exactly how I felt. Small, ashamed, stupid. And what came next, she says, was worse than the insult. It was the silence, the lack of apology, the way no one stepped in, not even production. They filmed it, they aired it. No one asked if I was okay. That moment, Christine now believes, symbolized everything else that was wrong with her marriage. Not just the absence of attraction, but the absence of respect. And more importantly, the absence of power. Because when a man controls your finances, your reputation, and your screen time, what's left for you to control? That's why the financial receipts she's now sharing aren't just numbers. They're symbols of all the dignity she was asked to surrender, of all the ways she had to make herself smaller so that Kody's ego could take center stage. I didn't just lose money, she writes. I lost my voice. But here's the twist. Christine admits she didn't see it clearly at the time. She even says there were moments she believed she deserved it, that she wasn't pretty enough, thin enough, polished enough to compete with Robin, who seemed to glide effortlessly into Kody's affection. He always looked at her differently, she confesses, and I started blaming myself.
I am telling my sister wives that I'm leaving Kody.
It's heartbreaking to read, because what Christine is really unpacking here isn't just marital breakdown, it's emotional abuse dressed up as spiritual duty. And when you layer financial manipulation on top of that, the picture becomes painfully clear. So now, when Christine flips open her book and calmly reads about bank transfers and TLC paychecks, she's not just recounting facts, she's reclaiming power. Every receipt is another piece of the dignity she was denied. Every paragraph is a quiet, deliberate act of justice, and for the first time in her life, she's not asking for permission to speak. She's daring Kody to challenge her. What happens next could shake the entire Sister Wives legacy to its core. Because if Christine has her way, and by the tone of her voice lately, she absolutely will, the final chapter of this saga isn't going to be about reconciliation or quiet reflection. It's going to be about reckoning, the kind that turns whispered suspicions into hard truths and leaves everyone, Kody, Robin, maybe even TLC, scrambling to catch up. Christine has already teased what's coming. A paperback edition of her memoir is allegedly in the works, and fans are buzzing about a rumored bonus chapter. Not just a reflection, but a timeline. A detailed, documented rundown of every single payment, every purchase, every moment she was asked to smile while the man in charge quietly held all the cards, and the timing couldn't be more strategic. According to some followers who've been watching the legal filings, Kody and Robyn have allegedly hit a financial slowdown of their own. A family insider claims Robyn's lavish spending has reportedly come to a screeching halt, no more luxury furniture deliveries, no more online shopping sprees caught on camera. There's even chatter that their nanny quietly resigned, citing uncomfortable household dynamics. Again, no confirmation yet. But paired with Christine's mounting receipts, the optics are impossible to ignore. One woman walked away with nothing but a box of copied documents. The other stayed behind and now may be watching the walls close in. Even more telling, TLC's complete and total silence. Not a single executive has commented publicly on Christine's claims. Not a peep from the network's press team, despite mounting questions from fans and media outlets alike. The message is loud and clear. They're hoping it blows over. But Christine, she's not letting it.
If he doesn't like me, will he just go to another wife? Whoa, Janelle said. Polygamy is why you're strong. And it's why you're going to be able to leave.
At a recent book event in Utah, she reportedly winked at a fan who asked about season 19 and said, "If it airs, you'll know what not to believe." That one sentence sent fans into a frenzy. Because if she's positioning herself as the truth teller armed with contracts, screen grabs, and bank records, then any attempt to discredit her on screen could backfire spectacularly. And then there's the legal wildcard. Quiet whispers are building around whether Christine or her children could have legal standing to pursue back pay. After all, if minors were filmed, promoted, and helped carry the emotional weight of the show, but were never compensated directly, could that become a retroactive issue? Could there be claims of exploitation, unfair labor practices, a re-examination of those TLC contracts? We're not there yet, but the smoke is rising, and with Christine holding the matchbox, no one's ruling out fire. For now, she's playing it calm, composed, even a little cheeky. But make no mistake, Christine is holding her ground. And every word she writes, every sentence she reads aloud, is another crack in the foundation of Kody's carefully crafted empire. Because this time, she's not crying into a pillow or waiting for someone to say sorry. She's flipping the narrative file by file, chapter by chapter. And if Kody truly believed this would all fade away quietly, he may have just learned the hard way. Receipts don't expire, they accumulate. Now let's hear from you. Do you think Christine's got enough evidence to bring legal consequences? And if she releases that contract chapter, what do you think Kody and Robyn will do next? Be sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned. The next video on your screen is waiting, and trust me, you won't want to miss it.